Welcome to the testing material, the virtue of prudence, knowing the truth and living in it. So this is the great virtue of prudence, right reason and action that we'll be talking about throughout this video series. And the way we divided this video series for you is by question. So actually what you'll be able to do is use these videos to help you put together your study guide. So every video matches with a question that is asked of you on your study guide, so you'll be able to put it together. And just a reminder, guys I teach know this. Maybe if Father Brian has shared this with you, maybe you don't know this, but I'm actually paid per view on the video. So if you could, just watch it, maybe share it around, different things like this. So I have to hit a certain number of views in order to get paid for the week. So what we're going to be doing throughout this particular video is looking at our first question. And our first question is this, is that why is seeing rightly essential for acting virtuously? So in other words, in order to act virtuously, why do I need to see things properly, rightly, correctly, or see things the way they actually are? And to start this conversation, what I want to do is just point out Kyrie Irving. A couple of years ago, you might remember he had this whole thing going on with the flat earth conspiracy theories. And I know some of you guys still hold this, but it's not a thing. And the way we know the flat earth is not a thing is we can use science, we can use reason, we can look at the way things are around us to determine that actually the world is not flat, rather the world is actually round. So in this literal sense, right, Kyrie does not see the world the way it actually is. What we're going to say is that the same is true actually for our moral life, the way we live our own life, is that in order to live well, I actually have to see things the way they actually are, which means seeing things correctly. On a more serious note, I was reading this biography a few years ago, this woman named Lorraine Murray, and Lorraine Murray was a woman who struggled with weight for most of her life. She would sort of go back and forth, and eventually she got on a plan that worked well for her. And what she was able to do was lose weight. She worked with her doctors, and the doctors were very comfortable or proud of the weight she was able to achieve. It was a good weight, it was a healthy weight, she looked good, she felt good. But despite this, she writes that even though she slimmed down, even though she was feeling better and looking better and she was more healthy, she said that whenever she looked in the mirror, she didn't see that new me, that knew her. Instead, using her words, she saw a fat lady staring back at her. In other words, Lorraine Murray was not able to see the way things actually are. She didn't see properly. And because she couldn't see herself for who she actually is, that actually affects the way that she is able to live virtuously. In order to live virtuously, I need to see things properly because my virtue has to match up with the truth or the way things actually are. If the way I live my life, right, does not correspond to the truth or the way things actually are, it cannot be virtuous. The way that we see things, the way that we understand the truth around us, the way that we see things for what they are, whether accurately or inaccurately, drives the way that we act. So the reason that it's important to see accurately is because if I see accurately, that drives how I act. If I see things inaccurately, in other words, if I don't grasp the way things are around me, then that inaccurate seeing is going to drive the way that I act. To put it to you most simply, I can't act right if I can't see right. And again, it's actually impossible for me to act virtuously without an accurate grasp of the way things are, because virtue requires me to know the good and then do it. Right? If I don't know what the good is, I'm actually not using my reason, which is actually going to make me less than fully virtuous. Because to be fully virtuous, right, I'm using my will and my reason to its fullest possible extent. And the more I do that, the more I turn up my reason, the more I turn up my will and execute it, the more virtuous I am, the more free I am, the more good that I'm actually doing. So it's actually impossible to be fully virtuous without knowing first what the good is and then doing it. And knowing what the good is means that I see truthfully. I see things around me for the way that they actually are. So when you look at Lorraine Murray and she's having this difficult relationship with the way that she sees herself, that's actually impeding, stamping on, choking out her ability to live a good life. So whenever she's eating, right, she has feelings of guilt and shame. Maybe she's uncomfortable to go with people for dinner. Maybe it's standing in the way of her other emotional relationships. Maybe the way she sees herself with her husband, her kids, her extended family. Maybe it's limited some of the passions that she's able to do. Maybe she loves dancing, but she's afraid to because of the way that she inaccurately sees herself. So because Lorraine Murray does not have a truthful grasp of the way things are around her, in other words, she does not see properly that she is healthy, that she is at the proper weight, right? Instead, she has this inaccurate grasp of reality that she's actually this fat woman. In reality, she's not. But because she sees herself in that inaccurate sight, right, it actually affects the way she lives her life. That inaccurate grasp of reality chokes her out in a way, right? It chokes out her virtue, right? It doesn't let her live the fullest meaningful life that she could have. Okay? It impedes her ability to live a good life. So the reason that we need to understand the way things are around us is so that we can contribute to our flourishment, so that we can contribute to our good life, so that we can contribute to our happiness. Right? So I'll give you a couple other examples of this. So for instance, the gambler, right, who's, he's either playing roulette, maybe he's playing the dice, maybe he's playing a little blackjack, whatever it might be, he doesn't see things for the way they actually are. In other words, in his mind, he's thinking, well, let me tap into my kid's college fund. I think I'm going to win on the next hand. Well, dude, you actually just lost 15 grand. You have no reason to believe that you're going to win on the next spin, on the next roll of the dice, on the next hand, but he does it anyway. And the reason he does it is because he doesn't have a truthful grasp for the way things are around him. And because he doesn't see reality for what it is, oh yeah, let me bet on the Bills today, they're going to win. Or I know I lost the last 3 weeks, but I'm going to take my last 500 bucks and do this, right? That inaccurate grasp of reality is going to affect the way he acts. So the way that I see things affects or drives the way that I act. So if I see inaccurately, if I understand the world around me inaccurately, then I'm going to act inaccurately. Another example is you think of the guy in the relationship who he's got to get out. The relationship's terrible for him, right? His friends know it, his family knows it. She's telling her friends, yeah, I can't stand this guy. I'm only with him for his money, whatever it might be. But he can't see accurately. He can't see that she doesn't want to spend time with him. He can't see that she's just running down his bank account, whatever it might be. And it can go the other way too, obviously. That lack of grasping the truth or grasping reality for what it is and not what I want it to be is going to impede or crush out my ability to live virtuously, my ability to live a good life. Let me give you a real Hendricken example. Every year there's like a kid who comes up and he'll say to me, hey, I need a letter of recommendation. And all I can think is, really, no one else would write this for you, right? So, why is he asking me? But we'll do it for him, right? For a little, So anyway, he'll be like, hey, I really need you to write this. All right, where are you thinking of going? What are you thinking of studying? And, like the kid's like a C student. He's barely done any work all year for really anyone. And then he'll be like, yeah, you know what? I'm thinking of going to medical school. I've been looking at Brown. I'm thinking maybe Harvard. Tufts University in Medford, Mass will sort of be my safety school if any of those other schools don't. And you're just looking at him saying, dude, do you get it? Right? You don't understand the way things are around you. You don't have a grasp of reality. And because you're lacking that grasp of reality or the truth, right, you're actually going to act inaccurately. Right? So that kid, that's going to impede his ability to get into a school that's reasonable and good for him that might have scholarship money. Instead, he's going to get rejected, and maybe he doesn't even apply to a place that's reasonable. And that's actually going to impede his ability to live a good life, at least in the short term. So big takeaway point for all this would be that the truth precedes the good. In order to do what's good, I first have to understand the truth as the truth, not what I wish it is, not what I desire it to be, not what I think it should be, but the truth as the truth is, which is the way things actually are. And if I understand the truth or the way things actually are, then and only then can I do what's truly good, because I've understood with my reason what's truthful. And when I pursue the truth with my reason and then execute it with my will, I bring it about, then and only then can I deal with living a good life and forming good virtue. So the last image, you must grasp the truth. You must see rightly in order to do what is good. The way you see things drives the way that you act.